Hey, Daniel here. I hope you're having a wonderful day and you had a great holiday season. That it was full of just great memories, gratitude, and hope as we step into 2023. I figured it'd be a really good time to talk about this guy. Wow. This is the Liong Mah Model 18. And if you scroll down through my content, about a year ago, I did like an unboxing and a first impressions video of this guy. And I figured it'd be a really good time to talk about, my long-term review experience, and really what I love about this knife, a few gripes that I have, and, if this is a knife that, that is right for you. So with that being said, sit back, relax, and let's get right into it. I've always been a distant admirer of Liong Mah's work, from the Endeavor to the L1 and even the Cuff series. Just something about his design language really speaks to me, but for whatever reason, I never managed to pick one up. That is until I saw the limited run of the Model 18 to celebrate his 18th year and bring some of the most memorable and beloved knives to our community. I opted to go with the, I would say the basic Model 18, which is the all titanium in that S90V blade steel. From there, you can really pick your poison, from carbon fiber to fat carbon to even mokutai with a Daniel steel blade. After carrying and using this knife for about a year, I want to share my experience with this knife, including what I love about it, a few gripes, and hopefully give you a better idea of whether the Model 18 is a good, great, or not so great everyday carry. First of all, I do want to point out that this is a really good looking knife, especially with that loveless style blade design. Riyadh has done a fantastic, stunning job with this two-tone S90V blade. It has this beautiful hand-finished satin on the flats and almost like a vapor satin finish on the main bevel and on the swedge. The blade did come relatively sharp, but really nothing to write home about. What I can say that is this S90V edge has held up incredibly well, and I haven't had to sharpen it over the year of regular carry and use. And of course, I want to say this blade centering is absolutely dead on, and it hasn't moved from this spot since I got it about a year ago. One other thing I do want to point out is that in this area right here, where the blade meets that stop pin, there is like a deep cutout. It's a little bit hard to see, but typically that stop pin will kind of just engage with like the back of where the blade ends. But actually Riyadh has milled out this deep section where essentially the blade wraps around that stop pin and really just reinforces that contact point. And really, if there was any place that may fail, I would say it's probably in that area. So, Riyadh and Liong Mah did a great job in making sure that they took full advantage of, that stop pin and this blade really just wrapping around that, and just to really reinforce that area. In terms of the cutting performance, it's not like a slicing monster, like I would say maybe like a paramilitary 2, obviously. But it cuts well enough, because it is a relatively thick blade stock with a, that saber grind. I do find thicker, denser material getting hung up on the edge sometimes, but it's not like to the extent where, it's a pain to use. Overall, the blade is beautifully finished, lovely to look at, and it holds the edge consistent with S90V and is an above average cutter. If you're looking for that type of, I would say, a knife that, where it could cut a lot of cardboard boxes and dense materials with ease, this knife may not be the knife for you. But it does cut well enough. Now let's move on to the handle. One of the hallmarks of this knife is this impeccably executed integral handle that's been crafted from a single block of titanium. All the edges have been rounded off to make this a pretty ergonomic knife. There's just no sharp edges on this knife. Now, what I absolutely love about the handle as well is this disengagement area. Look, Riyadh has done a beautiful job to just to mill out this angle, so it's just really comfortable to use. Compare that to maybe something like the Koenig Arius, where, as you can see, it that edge is a pretty hard angle. So I find that after disengaging that lock bar a few times, it does feel a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, nothing to cry about, but there's definitely a difference in just the way that Riyadh and Liong Mah has executed that disengagement area on this Model 18 is just no hot spots. It's really comfortable to disengage that lock bar. I absolutely love it. Now, Liong Mah made an awesome design choice in milling these beautiful cloud-like waves on both sides of the handle, as you can see. From what I've read, this is a proprietary Riyadh design, so kudos for making this happen on this Model 18. This pattern is mesmerizing, especially when the light hits it at certain angles, and it just really makes it come alive. Like it's actually like blowing, like there's a breeze kind of like blowing through. Hopefully that translates through the camera okay, but yeah, it just really is just a beautiful, it's a beauty. I'll just put it that way. It doesn't provide much grip because all the peaks have been knocked down, but visually it's one of the most beautiful milling designs I've ever seen. The next thing I absolutely love about this knife is the action. Riyadh has, tuned the detent on the harder side, but it's very precise without any of that detent lash or any wiggle when it's in that close position. Pair that with a ceramic ball bearing pivot and you got an incredibly smooth, authoritative action that's honestly pretty addictive. And once that blade flies out, it just really locks into place and it feels very similar to a Chris Reeve lockup. While it's not like a drop shut type of action, as you can see, I do have to kind of shake it a little bit. The action does feel closer to a Chris Reeve in terms of its consistency, its smoothness, and just how velvety that action feels. It's just beautiful. I love it. Now, when it comes to the fit and finish, this is where it really shines. Riyadh continues to impress me with their ability to push the boundaries and constantly just redefine what top-notch manufacturing prowess and craftsmanship can achieve on a large scale. And in many respects, I think it's honestly spoiled us knife enthusiasts. Our expectations are higher, and the things that we used to associate with high-end knives are now more accessible and accepted as a norm. Now, while there's a lot to rave about and love about this knife, I do have a few very minor gripes. It took me a while to come up with these, but one of the biggest one is just this really skinny stop pin in relation to how thick and how heavy this blade is. So I'm gonna try to capture it. You could kind of see that stop pin right there. It's actually kind of skinny. You compare that to like maybe something like the Paramilitary 2. Look at that. It's almost like twice as thick, the Paramilitary 2 stop pin. And like, let's say something, sorry, let me see if I could pull out a Chris Reeve. Look at that. Look at the stop pin on the Chris Reeve. It's literally like at least twice as thick as the stop pin on this Model 18. So, I mean, given how fast and aggressively this blade flies out, that stop pin has taken a ton of abuse. And if you're like me, if a knife has great action You know, I'm flipping this knife at least 100 times a day, you know. So that's that. The next minor gripe that I have is this angular point right there, where my thumb naturally lands. I do have, you know, pretty like average medium sized hands. So if I just don't think about it and just put my thumb down, it kind of lands right there where that peak is. And so, you know, it's not super uncomfortable, but you know, if you're the kind of guy that likes to use his thumb or his or her thumb to bear down on the knife while cutting, you'll definitely feel that over time. I was trying to figure out why they decided to go with that design. I'm thinking possibly, you know, to accommodate that flipper, you know, to kind of, you know, make the lines a little bit consistent, you know, when the blade is closed, as well as maybe kind of provide a little bit of symmetry, you know, because you do see that peak at the bottom right there. And it does kind of, you know, if I'm like, you know, thinking about it, it does feel, you know, it is kind of like a shallow like thumb ramp as well. But just the way I guess my hand is designed, it just kind of lands right on top of that peak. So that's that. And then let's just talk, you know, and since we're on this, let's talk about the sharpening choil or the lack thereof. If you can see here, the sharpened edge terminates at this flat area right there. It just kind of just runs right into this flat area. And then you can see this ricasso here, it angles rather sharply and quickly. So I feel like maybe over time it may cause a sharpening issue, but I'm not like a professional sharpener. So if you're one of those, you know, folks, then I would love to hear your thoughts on it. You know, please leave a comment or a question down below. But yeah, it's just honestly, I'm kind of guessing, but typically when there's like that really just tight ricasso and there's no sharpening choil, typically I've heard that it'll start to kind of mess with the angle as you kind of go back towards this area. So that's that. Another minor gripe is this pocket clip. I feel like the lines of the clip doesn't match the overall lines of this knife, and it just really kind of feels like this pocket clip was, you know, maybe an afterthought. Now I don't know that, so you know, I could be totally wrong here, but I feel like maybe something like a sharp by design type pocket clip where there's a little bit more curves going on would really complement the overall silhouette of this Model 18. But I do want to say that in terms of the effectiveness of the clip, it almost does its job a little too well. As you can see, it's a very stiff clip, and there's not a lot of real estate beneath that clip. So if you wear jeans or pants with thicker like pocket seams, you know, it is definitely harder to kind of get that material under that ceramic ball and, you know, through and to use this pocket clip. And you know, but I do want to say that once it is in your pocket, when it's clipped in, it's really not going to go anywhere unless you really are, you know, intentionally, you know, gonna pull it out, right? So it does take also a little extra tug to kind of make it come out of your pocket. And lastly, if you're the kind of knife guy or girl that likes the high speed, low drag approach, I don't know if this knife is for you. It's fairly heavy and you're definitely going to feel it in the pocket, you know, even though it is at a respectable, you know, 4.8 ounces. Now, mind you, this is I think a little bit over 3.5 blade length. So that's why I'm saying it is a very respectable weight. But for some reason, it does feel noticeably heavier than this, I want to say this large Sebenza 31, which I believe is only a 0.1 ounce lighter. And so I'm not sure if, you know, it's this integral titanium handle that's playing mind tricks on me, but in just real world carry, it does feel a little bit like a pocket anchor. Let me even see. I don't even think that, yeah, it's not milled inside as well. So there is no like weight saving, like milling going on inside. I'm sorry. I wish I could show you the insides of that a little bit more, but yeah, this is like a solid titanium core. Now, before I forget, I do want to mention one other thing. I don't know if it's a gripe or not, but this basic Model 18 clocks in at $600 retail. And with the more fancier configuration, it goes all the way up to about $1,259. So I would consider this on the higher end of the price point, especially when you're at an era, you know, we're at an era in the knife industry where there's just so much competition, and not only at this price range, but at much lower price points. So we're not, you know, we're no longer at a time, I would say, where integral titanium folders are commanding those high prices that we once accepted as a norm. You know, when you have companies like We Knives making, you know, like things like the Synergy and the Synergy 2 at like literally less than half the price of this knife, or even Riot themselves coming out with knives like the Jack model, you know, that's like $100 or $200 cheaper. You know, again, you know, the knife community is becoming, you know, more accustomed with having features, you know, usually reserved, you know, for more expensive knives, coming in you know, coming into knives that are way more affordable. You know, but for me, I obviously thought it was worth the $600, so here we are. Let me see. So, does the Model 18 check all the boxes for a great EDC knife? You know, in my book, it checks most of the boxes, but most importantly, it checks all the boxes that really matter to me. You know, it looks beautiful. You know, it has it does, and it has a comparatively slim profile with nothing awkwardly deviating from its overall lines. You know, it's a dependable cutter. You know, it feels good in the hand. It has just impeccable fit and finish, and it has just a awesome, satisfying action. Yes, there's definitely certain things that don't toot my horn, but overall, this is a worthy knife to honor the 18 years Liong Mah has graced us with his presence, as well as showcase just Riot's incredible capabilities as a powerhouse manufacturer. This loveless style blade just really pays respects to a time when man used to, you know, use this knife to live off the land, while the integral structure and the modern material celebrates the ingenuity of modern technology and the constantly evolving nature of the knife industry. So who would I recommend this knife to? You know, for me, it would be for the more discerning knife enthusiasts who may have already have a few EDC knives in their collection that fills out that functional space. You know, something like a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, you know, like this one, or, you know, maybe even like a Delica. You know, if you're looking for something a little bit more exciting, you know, using the most modern technologies and materials that results in a knife with beautiful form and function, then the Liong Mah Model 18 is really right down your alley. So with that being said, you know, I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any questions or comments, you know, drop them down below. And if you like what you're seeing, you know, I would really appreciate you hitting that thumbs up button and subscribing. Until next time, adventure on.